First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting my wife's ex to be our sperm donor? I literally never thought I would ever be writing a post on Reddit, let alone this. I, 30 female, have been married to my wife, 34 female, for 2 years. We have been dating for 7 years. We have a great relationship with lots of communication and big mutual respect. I am a lesbian, my wife is bisexual. I am no longer in contact with any of my exes. Neither is my wife, except for David. David and her dated from when she was 22 to 26. They had an amicable breakup and both stayed in the same friend group. David has a girlfriend and he is a nice guy. My wife and I have been talking about kids for a few years now. We are currently in the process of having a child and are now looking for a sperm donor. We were originally going to operate for an anonymous sperm donor, but still with enough info about him for our child. Yet something changed a while ago. A month ago, my wife started to mention how nice it would be if our child would have a non-anonymous sperm donor. How it would be convenient if our child ever had questions about where they came from, etc. I agreed. However, I told her that I couldn't think of someone in our family or friend group who could be that person. He sat me down and told me about how she had talked about this with her friend group, including David, and how he had contacted her afterwards. Apparently, he is willing to be her/our sperm donor. Important detail is that, due to health complications, I am not able to have children, so my wife will be carrying that child, so the child would be biologically theirs. He told her how his girlfriend and him don't want kids, and how he wants to give this as a present to her. That it seems nice for him to have someone who is biologically his, but not him being the parent. My wife was extremely happy when she told me this. In her mind, this is the perfect plan. I told her I have nothing against David, but I don't feel comfortable having a child with him, and I especially don't feel comfortable having my wife and her ex having a child together. According to my wife, I am unreasonable. Her friend group, David and her family, have all contacted me saying that I am ruining my chances of a happy family, and how selfish I am. Am I the a-hole for not wanting a child with my wife's ex? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Taking a donation from someone you know is complicated, legally and emotionally. Taking a donation from an ex is a whole other level of emotional and moral complications. You're right to say no. In all honesty, I'm wondering if she may already be pregnant, or they've been going behind Opie's back and have decided they would have a valid excuse if she accidentally gets pregnant. Not the a-hole. The fact she worked this out with David and the entire rest of her friend group before she thought maybe you, as the other co-parent of this child, ought to be brought into the discussion tells you everything you need to know about where you stand in her priorities, let alone whether you should be having a kid with her right now. Put your foot down. That if the two of you don't go to counseling instead to sort out why she thinks it's okay to bully you like this, and why everyone but you seems to be getting to say in your family planning, she's free to pursue a family with David independent of you, as she would apparently prefer. Seriously, I was pretty WTH reading the post. They're planning to have a child, not pass a law that needed to consult, discuss, plan and figure out a bunch of details with her party members before placing it before the opposition for final approval. Not the a-hole, OP. Not the a-hole. So let's get this. She talked to David about being a potential before you. She talked to her friend group about David being a potential before you. You were uncomfortable and she's calling you unreasonable. OP, you were not ruining your chances at a happy family. This is clearly a situation that requires 2 yeses. If anything, if she's bearing the child, you should bring the donor to the table if it's non-anonymous. I understand this discomfort, and given her prioritizing everyone else's input and blessings before even discussing the idea of David as donor with you, you may want to reconsider having children with her. It should have been brought as an idea to you before anyone. I'd make it a hard no, insist on therapy, and get an anonymous donor. Not the a-hole. It's hard to take a donation from someone, but from an ex is pushing it. I wouldn't touch an ex's sperm because it would make insecure and make me feel like my partner wants her ex instead of me. Plus, the kid will just be another tie to ex. Next story. Am I the a-hole for lashing out after my husband ruined the food I prepared for our guests? Me, female 26, and my husband, male 33, Mike, have been married for a year now. He doesn't cook. He's bad at it. His cooking is the worst, despite learning from books / YouTube videos / me teaching him. It just never works. Every time he steps a foot into the kitchen, it turns into a mess. I don't know how. He just doesn't know how. Maybe because he's constantly busy with work, police officer, and is used to fast food. But he's good at other things, so we've agreed that I handle cooking. He handles chores, and everything was going well. However, recently he's been getting involved in my cooking. Basically making comments about what ingredients I should not add, and I try to take it under consideration, but only if he's being reasonable. Lately, he's been waiting for when I prepare dinner or lunch, then sneaks in and add extra salt, /pepper, /spices, /other ingredients that completely ruined the meal. First, it was a mystery to me. Had me questioning myself why I added too much salt or spices. Then he admitted he was the one adding extra ingredients and messing up my cooking. The meals are no longer edible. I've told him to not try to get involved in something he doesn't have experience with. I've basically been eating out for a week now because of him. Last night, we had my family visiting. I took the entire day preparing meals and he helped out by going to the grocery stores. I noticed he bought stuff from the grocery store that I wasn't allowed to see. I figure probably some snacks. As we were about to eat dinner, my mom and dad suddenly looked grossed out and said they couldn't eat because the food had so much salt in it. I was confused. I asked them to try another dish, which was too spicy for them to eat. My dad had an upset stomach and he almost threw up. He has a high blood pressure and salt wasn't good for him. Mike kept acting confused that my mom and dad couldn't eat anything I made. I knew Mike had something to do with it. My parents left and I felt ashamed, so I asked Mike. Then I blew up after he admitted he went behind my back to add ingredients that he thought were going to make my food better. I lashed out at him, told him he ruined my work after spending hours and made my parents feel uncomfortable. Adding too much salt knowing my dad has high blood pressure. He argued that he was just trying to help and thought the food will be better, so I shouldn't yell at him. And my parents didn't say anything, so it wasn't that bad. I told him he shouldn't have done this, but he refused to acknowledge he did anything wrong, then went out to meet his friends for dinner. Not an a-hole. He's repeatedly and dependably ruining every meal he touches. If he wants more salt, he can add it to his portion at the table. There's no universe in which he's being helpful, and how he thinks is a mystery. Not to be that person, but can he taste and smell okay lately? Added to add, OMG folks, we did it. It's gaslighting. It's real honest to God gaslighting. I have no idea what his problem is. He keeps saying it's better this way and it's better that way. It's tiring and doesn't seem to know what he wants. Is it possible he's mentally unwell? This just seems so strange. I don't understand how to explain it if there isn't something else going on. He is purposefully ruining food. He is sneaking and doing it. He's sabotaging you. Either he's having a mental health crisis or he's being an a-hole. My money is on the latter. I thought the same thing. He knew he was going out with friends and he deliberately sabotaged the meal for her parents. Have one red flag. Not an a-hole. Mike either has a medical condition or he's just controlling. I mean, 40% of cops self-reported abusing their wives, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's testing the waters. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for making my husband stay in the basement? My husband likes to go to strip clubs. Under normal circumstances, he would go between every couple months to a few times a month. I've never really liked the idea of him looking at women like that. But I understand he has a hard job and needs to get away and unwind sometimes. I don't complain or try to stop him going, and I know it's not the same as cheating, so it's not usually an issue. The last year, my town's strip clubs have mostly been closed because of COVID. It's been a stressful time for all of us, and lately my husband has been even more irritable than usual. 2 nights ago was my son's 21st birthday. With everything being closed, we didn't have much of a celebration, but my husband said he and my son could use it for some father-son time. I had to work overnight at the hospital, so I left them their own devices. When I came up through the garage coming home, I noticed the basement den smelled like alcohol. We have a bar in the basement den, but normally my husband doesn't use it unless we have guests over. When I went to bed, I asked my husband and he said he and my son just hang out downstairs playing games and having drinks to celebrate his birthday. Later, when I was out in the yard, my next-door neighbor asked me how the party last night was. I didn't know what to say, and I think she could see I looked confused, so I awkwardly excused myself and went to confront my son instead. I asked him about the night before, and he also said nothing happened, but eventually gave in and admitted my husband and some of my husband's friends came over the night before to have some drinks with him for his birthday. He didn't want to talk to me anymore after that. I told my husband that my son had told me what happened the night before, and he ended up admitting that he and his friends had brought a stripper into the house for our son's birthday. He kept saying it wasn't a big deal, and that nothing happened and they didn't even do anything, whatever that's supposed to mean. He said this was something he and his son had wanted to do for a long time, and I was trying to take away his chance to bond with his son and be a man. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just blew up with rage and said that if that's what he wants to do in our basement, that he could just stay in the basement from now on. I told him I didn't even want to look at him. At that point, he left and said he was going to stay with a friend until I came to my senses. He hasn't been back, and my son hasn't spoken to me since. I know they're both grown men, and they can do this sort of thing if they want, but I just felt kind of hurt, like they were rubbing it in my face by doing it in our home. I may have overreacted, but part of me is still mad. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your husband had a COVID party and brought a stranger into your home without discussing it with you. He has definitely earned a bit of quarantine in the basement time. Not only that, a stranger removed her clothes for his enjoyment, and the house his wife also lives in. There is a big difference between stealing away to a strip club for an hour once a month and bringing a stripper into the home you share with your partner. It's obviously a sensitive issue for his wife, and he must have known this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lazily tried to hide it from her. I would be fuming if every time I went into the basement, I had to do so with the knowledge that my husband had been down there, eyeing up another mostly naked woman. It also really bothers me that he kept defensively saying nothing happened after the kid didn't want to talk about it. Could be totally true and the kid just felt awkward discussing the general topic with his mom, but going straight to defensiveness and cheating when she was rightly outraged just that the stripper was there is kind of weird. With his dad's friends, who was this party really for? Like gross initiation into adulthood. Since when does becoming a man equate to intergenerationally getting off in your loose sweatpants while objectifying the same strange woman grinding on you? Not the a-hole. Your husband brought another woman into your home for the express purpose of taking her clothes off and grinding on him and your son without your okay or even telling you about it. There are very, very few women who wouldn't be extremely pissed off about this. The real question is, why on earth are you still married to someone who has zero respect for you? Also, this is gross. Father-son bonding time? What the heck? But I understand he has a hard job and needs to get away and unwind sometimes. Yeah? This is not a thing. Oh, honey, my job is hard, so I want to look at breasts. You're awfully understanding about this, but now he's just abusing your forgiving nature. Naked women in your home is a clear line. Not the a-hole. They're grown men and can do what they want, but you're a grown woman and can do what you want as well. Oh, honey, my job is hard, so I want to look at breasts. If my partner tried pulling that crap, I can just see it now. Right, you want to look at breasts? You just get a load of these. Pounces and suffocates him. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting a baby to sleep in my room? I live in Dallas, and we're going through hell because of this winter storm. My family's house had to deal with rolling blackouts for the past few days, but yesterday is the day that it looked like our power was back on for good, which led to my mom inviting our neighbors to stay with us. For whatever reason, their power hasn't been on for the past few days, and my mom invited them to stay with us without even consulting anyone else in the family. These neighbors have 3 kids, one of which is a baby who's only a few months old. And out of nowhere, my mom told me that the baby and its crib were going in my room. That pissed me the hell off, since she didn't even ask how I felt about that. But she wouldn't listen to my protests. She never does. Last night I was trying to get to sleep, but the freaking baby was being noisy. She wasn't crying. She was just making random baby noises, and I couldn't deal with it. She eventually fell asleep, and so did I. But then she started crying, which woke me up. The parents came in and started consoling the baby back to sleep, But I was still up when the baby woke again and started making more baby noises. I decided to take action of my own. I ended up moving the crib into my sister's room, and when she started crying again, it was definitely better for me. But I heard a bunch of confusion in the hallway. The baby's mom was wondering why the crib was in my sister's room, and I just pretended to be asleep. But my mom slammed my door open and immediately called me out. This led to a giant argument between me and her in the hallway. I was arguing that it's not fair that the baby sleeps in my room, but once again, my freaking witch mom already decided that she wasn't right, and that she's not to be questioned. Then the neighbor's other kids woke up and the entire house was watching me and my mom scream at each other. Things eventually calmed down and the baby went back in my room. But once she was asleep, I pushed the crib into the bathroom and she wasn't discovered until this morning when the baby's dad found her in there. Now they're mad at me, but I'm pissed at them and my mom. My mom keeps calling me a brat, and the neighbors have already scolded me for what I did. So I retorted by calling them horrible parents who want to pawn their baby off to me instead of taking care of her themselves. Now, my mom is blaming me for the current tension in the house. Who's the bad guy here? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. You're 24 years old. Your parents do not have to provide a roof over your head. Do you pay rent? Your city is in crisis. Your mom is helping a family with children out so they don't freeze. You can handle a baby in your room for a couple of nights during an emergency. Wait, she is 24? I assumed from the tone that she's like 14. Edited to Ed. I got it, y'all. OP is a dude. Got it the first 100 replies. You're being generous. I guess for. You're the a-hole. It's a freaking emergency that will be over soon. You were acting like they moved a baby in with you permanently. You are so selfish. You should be ashamed. While I agree OP is being an a-hole, the parents should also bear responsibility. Baby should have been in the same room as the parents. What kind of parent would you be if you put your child in the care of someone who did not volunteer nor agree for the task? You're the a-hole. You should not have moved their child in the middle of the night without telling anyone. That is terrifying for a parent for their kid to not be where they think and to not know what happened. Then you double down and put the baby in the bathroom? Any sympathy I might have had over lack of sleep is gone. Grab a pillow and blankets and sleep in the bathroom yourself if it's so bad in your room. Yep, this. But also, I'm so confused as to why this baby isn't sleeping in the same room as its parents to begin with. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.